go. Okay. Fabulous. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Yay. This is our second virtual rules roundtable, and this one is about newcomer movement limitations. First, I'm going to do a sort of quick review of them, and then we'll go into more depth for whatever anybody needs on all of the movement limitations in newcomer. So the easiest movement limitations in newcomer is line dance. Because line in all newcomer divisions, you're required to do the vanilla all the way through, right? Since you're required to do the vanilla, it's pretty darn easy, right? So you're not worried about what specifically is allowed. Unless the step description or unless something says that you must do a particular arm movement or non-weight change movement, then any styling is allowed, right? So none of that is limited. That is true in the partner dances too, right? We don't want to limit people's styling and their personality. We're limiting the patterns and the steps. Yes, questions about line? Is that pretty clear? It's pretty clear in line. Yeah, that was the easy one. That's why I did that first. Then we're going to talk for a minute about our newcomer 432 divisions. Those are all pattern oriented, and the patterns are on the website and YouTube. And those, we want you only to do those patterns, right? So we have had several people ask, can I do this variation or that variation? And I'm happy to have people ask. We're going to have a couple of meetings in the next month or two. But in general, we don't want people to split apart the patterns. We want them to do the entire pattern that's on the syllabus. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that some of the patterns in those divisions, 432, have timing variations. And the timing variations are then allowed in newcomer 1. And so we do not want anybody, for instance, there's a promenade, chasse, and waltz. So in promenade position, somebody can do, 4, 5, and 6 in promenade. Okay. But that doesn't mean I can do a 4, 5, and 6 in any old position, in any old pattern in newcomer 1. So they have to do the actual pattern that's on, in this case, waltz newcomer 3, right? So we want to make sure people understand that that we want people to do the whole pattern, right? If somebody wants to do a variation or thinks a variation should be allowed, please video it and send it to me. And then, because we will have a few meetings, we already have a couple of questions. One was, in those divisions, can you vary your anchor in West Coast? Right? So it's just it's a third position anchor that they did. And people want to do, side rock close, forward rock close. And so basically what the group decided was no variations in 4 and 3. In newcomer 2, you're not varying timing, but you could change the placement of you could change your anchor. So that kind of thing. So over the next month or two, we'll be having a few meetings and answering specific questions. So if you send something in, I will answer you specifically. But we will write a list of approved variations. And then what I'll do is I'll repost. So each of those are on the actual documents that show the syllabus, right? So they're together. So it's easy to see, here are some approved variations, right? And I'll do it both ways. I'll have it as a separate document. Here are all the approved variations, but I'll also put it on the bottom of each of the dances. I'd rather overpost than underpost.
Yay.
Right. So anyway, that's, if you have specific questions about that, please send a video. And then that's the only way the group will be able to see what you're talking about, because it's not just me answering the questions, it will be a group of people. Yeah. Sherry, question.
Hi there. With the invigilator, are they going to be, they're the ones that are going to actually be saying yay or nay. The judges do not have to worry about those?
The judges absolutely do not have to worry about. So even last year, the invigilator was the contest coordinator. So the contest coordinator was the only one that had to worry about that. And we gave warnings to people, let people know if they were out of category. That will be the same this year. So this is a test year for invigilation. So technically the contest coordinator is still the invigilator of Newcomer 432, right? And we will do the same thing. This is going to be pretty much the same thing next year. In our invigilation process, there will always be at least 2 warnings, right? And not 2 times doing something, which could easily happen in 2 divisions, but 2 events with the same issue before anything happens, right? So this is really more about just making sure you understand. If somebody does something the 3rd time, they really are intentionally breaking rules, right? That's the only time we want to actually do something. But if people just don't understand or don't know the rule or forget or whatever, we'll give warnings, because the intention is to make sure everybody understands. Did that answer the question? Yes. Okay. Other questions about Newcomer 432, either specific questions or questions about how we do it? Yes.
Yeah. So when you said in 432, they only do those patterns, do they have to do the amalgamation?
Not at all. No.
Just so they do those patterns in
Yeah,
whatever order they want.
just the patterns. Yeah, just the patterns. So if you look at the amalgamation does not have every pattern in it.
Right.
Right. So for instance, you did something without a turn and with a turn, right? They didn't do both variations in the amalgamation, right? Lots of, especially for instance, 2-step, which had lots of variations. They didn't get to anywhere near all of them, right? So yes, the amalgamation, it's not about what amalgamation. Any amalgamation that the pro decides is the right amalgamation, right? It's just the patterns, right? So we want to make sure that, and we're going to go slowly with 432, because we want to make sure that it doesn't get like, now Newcomer 1 has very advanced choreography, right? We really don't want 432 to go that way, right? We want it to be much more about just learning the basics of the dances. And so we'll allow some leeway, but we don't want to allow too much leeway, because we don't want people to get away from, this is really about the basics of the dances and not about what pattern you do, right? So that's why we want people to just do the specific patterns and not worry about a ton of variations. Yes. You're welcome. Other questions? Questions are good. I like questions. Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Legal? Hi.
Yes, go for it.
Thank you for having me. So question about the walls in 432. I come from the ballroom
Yes.
world. So there's bronze, you close your feet, and silver, you pass your feet. So this is like a big, if they
Correct.
invigilate,
Yep.
this is like a big break in the rules. How is it in the Newcomer? You pass the feet right away, or you have to close?
If you look at the patterns, so you're going to want to actually get on and look at the videos of the patterns, which are on our website. In Newcomer 4, all the patterns there are closed feet. In Newcomer 3, they're all closed endings. So there is some passing of feet with closed endings. And Newcomer 2, it's pretty much all silver or passing feet. Right. So that's the process, that group. So most of these were all designed by a group of our masters, right? A different group for each dance. And this was a big discussion, as you might understand, with the waltz group, right? And we had some people on the waltz group that had a ballroom history and some people that had a country history, so we could mesh that, and that was what they decided to do. So if you look at the patterns in Newcomer 4, they all have closed feet. And if you look at the patterns in Newcomer 3, they all have closed endings, whether or not they have closed feet. And then Newcomer 2 does not have any closed feet endings.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
But yeah, have you seen the actual videos of them yet?
I've seen videos and I've been watching a lot of newcomer competitions.
Yes. So, but you would have to be looking at Newcomer 432 and not Newcomer 1 competitions, right? Because Newcomer 1
Yeah.
is not limited to what patterns they do. They can do any pattern they want as long as they stick to the correct timing. Yeah.
Got it. Mhm.
Right. So Newcomer 432 are the ones that are limited to the patterns on the website, the syllabus patterns. Yeah. Yes, Sherry, you had another question?
Yes, one more. Just a question with regards to blocking. I know that there's been kind of a back and forth of blocking of routines on the floor and that. Is there any-
Let's stick to Newcomer 432 first.
Okay,
And then when we talk about Newcomer 1, because there's definitely no blocking in 432. If you look at the patterns, none of them
Okay.
are. There is no such thing in 432. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's finish 432 first. Does anybody else have questions about Newcomer 432? Because I want to make sure we stay on top, and then I'm happy to go there. No questions about that? Okay, great.
Yeah, I have one more.
Yes, absolutely. Questions are good.
Back to, so this is like I'm prepping for my first country
Of course,
competition,
that's
Pro-Am. So phrasing, is it necessary in the 3-2? 4-3?
No, it's really not. In fact, even in Newcomer 1, we do want you to phrase the phrase dances, but the non-phrase dances, some people do still phrase and lots of people don't. However, the DJ is not required to play phrased music for the non-phrased dances. So you may not even get phrased music. You don't know, right? You may, but you may not. So for the non-phrased dances, definitely don't worry about it. For Newcomer 432, you do want to be starting, with the timing that's natural for that dance. And that will make most of the phrased dances match, right? But no, trying to actually phrase everything, don't worry about that in Newcomer 432. That's not the point of it. It's, again, just to get people to get the basics of the dance. Yes, Brian.
What's up? Can you hear me?
I can.
Cool. What are phrase dances versus not phrase dances?
Very good question. Phrase dances means the footwork of the dance matches the music. So in other words, or matches the phrases, the measures of music exactly. So polka is a 4-count basic, even though we generally think of it in 8s, but the basics of polka all match. So if you stick to 1, 2, 3,
West
and
Coast
4,
doesn't match, East Coast doesn't match.
That's right. West Coast, East
Got it.
Coast, 2-step, 2-2, none of those match. Those 4 dances
Okay.
do not match, right? So they're more than a measure in each of the basics, thus they're not naturally going to match the phrase. Whereas waltz, right? 2 measures is the
gotcha.
basic of waltz, so it's going to match. Nightclub's going to match, right? So those cha-cha's going to match. So those are the dances that are naturally going to tend to match the phrases because the basics match the measures, right? Anything that's not in Newcomer 432, it doesn't make sense to even try to phrase them. And you're not certainly not required to in Newcomer 1 either, right? Yes, good question. Thank you. I was thinking I started saying that and I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to explain that. Did that make sense to everybody? Do you understand what I mean by what we call phrase dances and non-phrase dances? Just means the basics of the dance match the measures of music. That's all it means. Yes. Question.
Yeah. So in the first 4 levels, what are the judges like require? What they want to see
The basics
that
of
the
the
student
dance.
is capable to do?
The basics of the dance. I mean, in Newcomer 432, that's really all we want them to be on time on the music. That's really what all our newcomers about, is being on time on the music. So that's really, yes, we would like to see them not completely look afraid. Yes, we would like to see them have a little partnership with their pro or their partner, right? But it's really about just first getting them comfortable on the floor and knowing what the basic of the dance is. Yeah. Yes, and pronounce your name, is it Grigor? Gregor?
Grigol.
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 Grigol. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to meet new people. Other questions? 4 through 2 questions. No questions? Okay, fabulous. So now newcomer 1.
Beth, I just put something in the chat.
Oh, somebody put something on the chat. Why am I not seeing the chat? Chat there, thank you. Let's see, please discuss once completing a full program in 3, you cannot, yes. So that's a good, thank you, Bryce, that's a good point. So, even though this is about the movement limitations, I'm gonna stray for just a minute or two because this is important. In Newcomer 432, people can do overalls in all of them. Okay, if you look at our rules, it's been our rules for many, many years. In Newcomer, it used to be just Newcomer, but now it's Newcomer 1 and above. You cannot do an overall in 2 different levels, right? If you do an overall in 2 different levels, then you are in the higher level and you can't go back, okay? In Newcomer 432, that is not the case. You can do an overall in Newcomer 4 and Newcomer 3 and Newcomer 2 if you wanted. However, you cannot do Newcomer 2 patterns in Newcomer 4, right? So you do need to stick to the patterns of whatever level you're dancing. If you win and the graduation is just like the Newcomer 1 and novice, which means 2 events with 3 or more people, or winning worlds, or if there's a whole bunch of people, more than just the top person wins out. But the idea is that if I, for instance, if I win out of Newcomer 3, then I cannot do either Newcomer 3 or Newcomer 4. I could still do Newcomer 2. If I win in Newcomer 2 twice or win Worlds in Newcomer 2, then I cannot do anything below Newcomer 1, right? So I can do overalls back and forth in the different levels of Newcomer 432, but once I'm graduated out of one of them, I cannot do the ones below it. Yes. Yes, Brian.
What is, when you say graduate out, what does that mean? So if I dance an event in 2, 3, and 4, what graduates me out and how do I know?
Exactly the same way it is now. So it's not, if you win twice with somebody, with 3 or more people in your division, that graduates you out of Newcomer 1 right now, and it's been the same way for many, many years.
At any point in the year.
At any point in the year. And the same way, if you win Worlds, you graduate out. So you can graduate out of all of our division one of 2 ways, either by winning Worlds or by winning events, depending on the level. And Newcomer and Novice, including Newcomer 432, are 2 events, or Intermediate or Div 2 is 3 events, and Advanced or Couples 1 is 4 events. Right, so it's graduated depending on the levels. I don't want to spend too much time on the graduation portion because that's not really what this is about. So if you have more specific questions for me, please contact me after. But Bryce is right. It's really good because these are fairly new divisions for me to at least go through that you can do the overalls in all of them. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Other questions? Thank you, Bryce. Good idea. Yes, Regal.
The overall is a new term for me. What does it mean,
Yes.
overall?
Yes, overall is different in line and couples and pro-am. In line, you must do all of the dances in a division for to be eligible for the overall. So in newcomer line, there'll be, if you look on the website, there'll be 4 dances in newcomer line, 3 of which you will do for overall. So in open, you will do a street and the other 2. And then in the age divisions, you will do a stage and the other 2. So there's 3 dances for all newcomers for overall. If somebody's doing starter, which is a brand new division, there's only 2 dances. But anyway, you'd have to do all of them to do overall in line. For couples and pro-am, it's a 5 dance overall. So you must do 2-step, waltz, 1 of the swings, and if you do both, your best 1 counts. And then 2 of the other 4. And again, if you do more than 2, the best ones count. Right? So the overall means 5 of the 8 couples dances. Yes?
It's like a multi-dance event, correct?
It is a multi-dance
Is-
event. Exactly right.
Okay.
Yes. So so the wins we're talking about are if they have done an overall. It's not winning a dance. It's winning an overall with at least 3 of them.
Collectively, yeah.
Collectively, that's right.
Yeah.
And they have to have beat a couple of people for that overall to count toward them moving up, unless they have really high grades. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good question. Other questions? No? Okay. So now let's back up and go back to newcomer 1. So newcomer 1 has had the same movement limitations for a very, very long time. Those have not changed. Those are that you have to keep to the timing, the basic timings of each of the dances, unless you're doing a foot change, right? And the timings of the basic dances are in the rules. Some dances have no variations at all. Waltz 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Polka 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those only have 1 basic. But 2-step, we have 3 basics, right? Quick, quick, slow, slow. Quick, quick, slow. Quick, quick, slow. And quick, 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 slow, slow. I can do the numbers too if you want that. But those rules and those basics have not changed for a very, very long time, right? So that is staying. What's new is that now that we have newcomer 432 divisions, anything that is not basic timing in those divisions may be allowed in newcomer 1, right? So as people come up, there's plenty of people in newcomer 1 already that aren't going to change their routines because it's not worth it, right? Brian, I'll get you in a minute. Let me finish. And so those people aren't going to change anything. But people that just moved up, say from newcomer 2, they don't necessarily want to have to change the routines or feels like going backwards if they can't do the things they just did in newcomer 2 in newcomer 1. And that's another reason we want people to do the full pattern when they are dancing in the newcomer 432, because if they want to vary the timing, they need to do the full pattern in newcomer 1. Right? So there is, for instance, spirals to a développé in waltz, right? You can't do a développé anywhere, right? You can't just randomly put in développés in whatever position and whatever place you want. You need to actually do the pattern that's in newcomer 2 in order to do it in newcomer 1, right? You have definitely seen people put gallops in polka, right? So that's the one variation that's allowed that was in newcomer 2 in polka and thus is allowed in newcomer 1. That one's pretty easy because everybody, or generally people do the full 8 counts of it anyway, right? So it's not a big deal. But the other ones, it is a big deal because you can't just randomly put them in anywhere. You need to actually do the pattern that's from the level before. Yeah? Okay, now Brian, questions?
You said patterns from the syllabus may be allowed in Newcomer 1?
They
Is that
are.
may be allowed or are?
No,
Okay,
not
cool.
may. No, are.
Okay,
And were last
got
year
it.
also. And that is in the rules. Yes, so patterns that are in Newcomer 432 are allowed in Newcomer 1. Patterns that are full patterns that are in 432. So if you take any pattern that was in 432, it is allowed in Newcomer 1. That's correct. But you
So
can't
pretty
just
much
take
whatever is,
patterns, right? You have to take the whole pattern. Go ahead. Sorry.
so whatever pretty much lower level you can dance on your upper level.
That's correct.
Everything from below level you can dance on the upper level.
That's exactly
Got it.
correct.
Okay.
So in Newcomer 4, it's only Newcomer 4 pattern. In Newcomer 3, it's 4 and 3 patterns. In Newcomer 2, 432 patterns. In Newcomer 1, 432 patterns plus anything that keeps basic time. Right? So that's the progression. Right? To go, and that's part of why I wanted this meeting, right? Because I don't think, even though it's been in the rules for a year, I don't think that was clear to everybody. Right? So I want to make sure it's really truly clear and you understand how we can use the Newcomer 432 stuff to compete in Newcomer 1 if you should choose to. It's not, none of it is required. Right? And some people will choose to do it and some people will not. And that's everybody's choice. Yeah. Okay, questions about Newcomer 1 movement limitations? Any questions about any of those? No? Yes. No, I'm glad. I'm so rather you ask all the questions you want than not understand.
Are there any costuming limitations? I know we talked about the step combination.
Yes. In Newcomer 432, this wasn't really about, but that's okay. I'll answer this one. Newcomer 432, no bling. No stones, no sequins, no bling in Newcomer 432. There's not that kind of limitation in Newcomer 1. Right? So, but Newcomer 432, no bling. Everybody still needs to wear, all leaders need to wear hats, and followers are not required, or excuse me, followers. Newcomers are not required to wear boots except at Worlds. But the pros dancing with them do need to wear boots. So the pros do still have to. The pros, if you're doing 4-3-2-1 all in one session, the pros don't need to adhere to the other costume rules because it's likely they have, you know, Newcomer 1 students and Newcomer 2 students, etc. So, but those competitors do need to not have bling. Yes. And if you have specific questions about that, stay on at the end because I can talk about that more. And it is actually in the rules as well, if you want to look it up. Yes, Blake.
In Newcomer 1,
Uh-huh.
are you allowed fans and rondes and that type of thing, or do they have to be associated with a specific pattern?
In Newcomer 1, you're not allowed to do them in the air, but fans and ronde sweeps, those are allowed as long as you keep basic timing. So there's a list: flicks, kicks, sweeps, those are allowed, but not rondes in the air. But
Okay.
it's really hard to do those and keep basic timing anyway, right? So we're not really, the sweeps are totally fine, right? Lots of things, the energy, the sweeps works well with the energy of patterns people are doing in Newcomer 1. There were not sweeps in Newcomer 432, but that doesn't mean they can't be done in 1. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. It's all about just keeping the timing. You're welcome. Of course. Other questions? Questions are good. Means I didn't cover something. No other questions? Okay. Well, this was a little bit shorter one, but that's okay. Right? So if we cover what needs to be covered in half an hour, that's fabulous. Right? If there's no more questions, I will stop the recording. Assuming I can figure out how to do that. Recording pause there.